All right, what's going on? Jeremy here, back with another video today. If you're new to the channel, my name's Jeremy Pogue, and I've scaled my online coaching business from zero to over $200,000 a month in my first 8 months, and it's been a ride. But today, I'm going to talk about a simple frame shift that is very simple yet profound. And I learned this from talking to a billionaire last week. Yes, billionaire with a B. And he was sharing his framework on how to really just establish flow and live in his sixth sense and intuition and just that flow state all of the time, where abundance and success and wealth and relationships and everything else really just flows into his life with ease, rather than him having to go out and force things to happen. And so I've got my Christensen Arms modern precision rifle today. It's a 6.5 Creedmoor, and she goes bang. And of course behind me, got the Murder Out Urus, my first love. But anyways, basically, the frame shift starts with this. Most people are very reactive to events in their life, and it causes them to be at the will of external events that are outside of their control to dictate how they feel and what thoughts they should have and what beliefs they should choose to hold as well. And that's completely backwards, because you can't control those external things. We can only control how we respond to those external things that happen. And so this billionaire, he founded this massive company, and it just was crazy. He sold another company before for $650 million. And basically what he said is he chooses to really just take things that happen to him, and he chooses immediately to let them go. He drops his ego. He chooses to completely let them go and accept that this external circumstance, this external event happened. But where he catches it is the story that he tells himself about the event that just happened. Most people would respond to it negatively and reactively. And like, let's say something really bad happened. For example, like your house caught on fire. Most people would freak out, and they would just, like, if you weren't home, you get a phone call that your house caught on fire, right? Most people would freak out and panic, and then their entire day is ruined. But this actually happened to him. And what he said is he was at the bar with his girlfriend, and he got a phone call from his neighbor that his house was on fire. And he said, okay, thank you. Hung up the phone, said, bartender, we'll take 2 shots of tequila, please. And so he got the 2 shots, chugged it, and that was that. And he didn't respond, he didn't react. In fact, he reframed it and flipped it on its head and said, you know what? He accepted the fact that his beautiful home, millions of dollars, was on fire and it was probably going to be lost. And he was like, I'm excited for the next adventure. And there's a lot of power in that, because most people would let an event like that ruin their lives and ruin their day, their week, their month, their year, and they could never recover. But what he said that he mastered was the art of letting go and the art of reframing the stories that he chooses to tell himself in his mind. Most people choose to tell themselves stories that cause them to be negative, right? And to feel negative emotions and just not be in a pleasant mindset or a pleasant state of mind. Fucking hell. Okay, not using this ammo again. There we go. And so anyways, what he does, or what he did when his house was on fire, they took the tequila shot. He gave himself those probably 2 minutes to mourn over his burning house between the time that he got the phone call and the time that he had the tequila, and then once he told himself, he made the commitment to himself that once that tequila's gone, he will never complain about it again, and it's over, right? Most people would go on for years about that. You never hear the end of it. And he says this allows him to be free and to live in that flow state, because I believe, and so does he, that life happens for us, not to us. And even the most negative of events are actually positives in the end, and everything happens for a reason. So even the negative things that happen that seem to be irreversible and absolutely devastating, usually they turn out to be incredibly powerful things, as long as you choose to frame it that way in your mind. And a few weeks ago, I was traveling with my girlfriend, and her bags got lost. And I probably shouldn't be saying this, and if you're watching this, sorry, babe, but nonetheless, she also might not be watching this. She doesn't like guns. But nonetheless, bags got lost, and I was like, man, of course they did. Why? Like, okay, whatever, kind of laughed it off. She wasn't feeling the same way about it. And she kind of got mad at me for being so, like, nonchalant about it. And I was like, hey, like, there's nothing we can do. It's out of our control. And there's no sense of letting this ruin our day, right? We'll find the bag. It'll come. It's okay. But I don't want this to ruin our day, ruin the experience that we had together, and anything like that. And maybe it's easier said than done, because it wasn't my bag that was lost. But it's the same kind of premise, the same kind of principle, right? If I choose to be reactive to negative circumstances, then when negative things happen, they're going to have a negative effect, right? I think that, and this is what that billionaire kind of laid out. He said, all events, all things that happen they're not positive or negative, they're all neutral. We choose to place, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, we choose to place a positive or a negative connotation on it, a positive or a negative energy on the event that just happened. And that shapes the story that we tell ourselves in our head as to what just happened and the effect that it has on our lives. So what he does is be very intentional with how he labels every event that happens to him, right? Turns out, funny story, his house didn't actually burn down. It was just like there was lightning and it just kind of burned like a bunch of the tall grass around the house, but the house is actually fine. And so he gets home and he sees like all his neighbors out there helping put out the fire and whatever, and they're all just kind of laughing. He said one neighbor on one side, he's like a priest, and he is very reserved and doesn't say a whole lot. And then the other guy's like a trucker, and then he just every word that comes out of his mouth is a swear word. And the three of them are just in the pool at 4 a.m, just hammered together, having the time of their lives. And they joked, and one of them turned to him and said, hey, you should have a fire every year, because it brought them together, right? Obviously, it turned out good because his house didn't actually burn down, right? But if it did, it doesn't matter. In his mind, based on the phone call, he thought that his house burned down. So with the facts that were presented to him at the time, he chose to not respond to them and not react to them. He gave himself about 1 to 2 minutes. He gave himself about 1 to 2 minutes to respond. And that was all that he needed. So the moral of the story is things are going to happen. Life's hard. Life's going to suck, right? There's going to be things that happen to you that you think are horrible and terrible. We've all had these, and we're going to have many more. But guess what? You're alive. You're still here today, and you will still be there when the next ones come. And it really is our duty, if we want to live a happy, prosperous life, to choose to label events as positive, especially when you can't see the positive side of it yet. But that's the trick. That's the test. The positive stuff always comes after the event, and usually it's long after, right? Usually you don't see it immediately. And out of all of the things that this billionaire could have said about building wealth and success, this was the one thing that he spent the most amount of time. It's the only thing he actually talked about. And he told multiple stories of times in his life where he practiced this and he exercised it. And he said that because of this, because of that skill set, because of that quality, that character trait of being very intentional and conscious with how he chooses to respond to things, that he permanently lives in flow state because he's not trying to force the universe or the world to bend to his will, right? And of course, we all want that to happen, and we can, but we can't actively go out there and force things to happen that aren't meant to happen, right? The things that are meant to happen will happen to us, and that's the power of the man upstairs, right? And there's no sense of just trying to bulldoze through every scenario and make things happen when we're not ready for them. And we have to learn from the hard things and the challenges in life. Otherwise, we're not going to see the good in anything unless we have first experienced the bad. So our brains have contrast between the two poles, and there's contrast between the two events, right? And without that contrast, then everything would be neutral and life wouldn't really be worth living, right? It is the ups and the downs that make life so wonderful, that make it so exciting, that make it so fulfilling. Think about the thing that you're most proud of. One of your greatest accomplishments. The thing that you worked so hard for a long time, and you did it. Chances are that was also probably one of the hardest things. And chances are you probably faced a lot of setbacks. And chances are, as you were going through it, you were probably being tested a lot. And that's exactly why it feels so rewarding and fulfilling on the other side when you do achieve it, because of the magnitude of negative events or events that you chose to label as negative that you had to go through to get the outcome that you wanted and to achieve the result that you were aiming for, right? So when negative things happen, whether it's in life or business, relationships, anything else, your house burns down, you name it. Always look for that positive. Always choose to label it as a positive event, because that is where we can hack the algorithm and it's in our reaction to those negative seeming events, which is where we truly hold the power that we possess. But most people choose to give up their power because they subconsciously or unconsciously choose to label certain events as negative, and they allow them to wipe them out. If you're watching my channel, you're probably a business owner, you're probably an entrepreneur, And it's probably been a long, challenging journey to get to where you're at. And chances are, you're probably not where you want to be at either right now. And that's okay, because I don't think we ever will. But what I do know is that there's going to be a lot more challenges and hardships that you will face along your journey. And it's your job and your responsibility to choose how you respond to those events. So choose to label those events as positive and empowering and testing and challenging rather than threatening. And you will live a very happy, successful, fulfilling life. And don't take it from me. Take it straight out the mouth of a billionaire, probably a multi-billionaire. And if that is the one thing that he chose to pass on to me when we were having that conversation, I would take it very seriously, as I am. And it really makes you kind of just ponder and question a lot of things about what are you truly optimizing for, right? What do you actually want in this life? And a lot of people are trying to brute force their way to an outcome when if they just pull back a little bit and they allow themselves the space and the boredom, the creativity to be in that peak flow state all the time, that's when their best ideas would come. And that's when the most success would be attracted into their lives instead of trying to force it into your lives and never actually happening. So choose good thoughts, choose good beliefs. And if there's one thing you can do tactically from this video, it is the next time something seemingly bad happens, say thank you. Give yourself about 1 to 2 minutes to mourn over that event, and then reframe the story that's inside of your head about it. You will live a very happy, successful, fulfilling life. So that's it for this video. If you like this, let me know down below. If you want to see more gun range rants, then let me know and I can make some. But until next time, see you next video. Bye.